Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning in. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the recent correction for Bitcoin, going over exactly what this means, where Bitcoin is likely to move to next, and how this has potentially influenced the higher time frame charts. If you followed our channel yesterday, you would know we were discussing this recent rally, and we talked about how this rally was not enough from a high time frame perspective to confirm a continuation upwards. We also mentioned that generally when we see the price surge on news events that do not have influence on the macroeconomic positions, such as the executive order deal over here, we generally do see the price struggle to sustain those highs if demand cannot be found. We discussed the potential in yesterday's video for a correction all the way back to 86,000, and a big congratulations if you did not allow emotions to get a hold of you and you were waiting for that confirmation, because we have now seen the price correct all the way back to 86k. The levels of validation we were discussing were, of course, the two levels we have been watching now for quite some time: the weekly downtrend and the daily RSI. In today's video, we are going to go into extensive detail for both the short-term and high time frame charts, discussing what the next moves are likely to be and how to navigate the upcoming days of price action. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos of Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, you can join us on Telegram. This is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop for cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and the relevant economic news. And if you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, join us in VIP. You can do that by clicking the pinned comment, click my name to contact me, the first link to find a 50+ month trading track record, and the second link to show you a 10-minute insight into the channel itself. You'll get access to trading setups such as this short we took yesterday, with exact entries, targets, stop losses, trade justification, and exclusive analysis, as well as access to a variety of different group chats of all of our members, ranging from the general chat to the trading chart and education chat to the daily video, the help, the trade setup, and community setup chat. Check it out. We have over 700 members, and we'll see you in the channel. Let's dive into the content. So as we mentioned just then, if you did follow our yesterday's video, go ahead and pat yourself on the back. When we do see these dramatic surges in volatility and volume, particularly downward and upward, it does get quite easy to let emotions take control. And I finished up yesterday's video with a very interesting quote. And that quote was, "Confirmation is the insurance you pay to be right. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it is worth foregoing that few percent profit that you may potentially make to get a later entry that has a significantly greater probability of success." Remember, trading has nothing to do with the price of the asset. If you are a trader, the price is completely irrelevant. All it is a means to evaluate the asset, a means to evaluate the perceived value of the asset in the market at any particular time. What really matters is the percentage change after you enter to your exit. That is what really matters. So a lot of people get caught up in the price. The price is arbitrary. It is just a number. It is a means of evaluation. What matters more than the price is how the price action is developing in relation to how it has historically moved and how it is currently moving based on future and current economic adjustments or shifts. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, but let's dive into the data. So with a massive correction, we have seen a massive surge in liquidations. We have seen $810 million in liquidations. That is up 0.93% because we did see a lot of liquidations to the downside, to the upside, and now back to the downside. Of volume, we see a 4% drop in volume at 319 billion. The DXY has actually dropped a little bit. This could be as a result of some tariff news pushed by President Donald Trump. Again, some new tariff news that has come out recently, but we do need to keep in mind some major economic events coming out in the next few days are as follows. We do have, of course, inflation data coming out on the 12th. This is in about 8 days' time. And prior to that, we do have the NFP and unemployment rate data, which, as we know, to be leading for inflation. So this could definitely dramatically change the perceived expectations for future interest rates, and at least how the Federal Reserve is going to tackle the current predicament they're in regards to, adjusting their expectations in relation to, newly developing laws such as the tariffs. So if we're looking at the DXY, looking at it right now, it's hard to say for sure, but we are watching for that weekly candle close. Looking at the S&P 500, it is not looking amazing over here. As we have mentioned, the one thing we need to see for us to turn bullish again. You're probably wondering, oh, why are you bearish? Why are you bearish? Well, the reality is, guys, we were bullish. We turned bullish over here, all the way back over here. We were bullish the entire time upwards until $6,100, the 14th of December, we have turned bearish. The reason we turned bearish is because of this long-standing bearish divergence that actually confirmed around that mid-December period. And again, the economic climate shifted from 5 interest rate reductions to 2. When we see shifts in economic expectations, the market does sometimes readjust its price to match those perceived systematic risk in the market based on the developing economic news. So when we're looking at this chart over here, we cannot be bullish on the S&P 500 until we see the RSI flip upwards. Why is that? Well, simply, the RSI is going to be a representation of the changing strength between selling pressure and buying pressure. At the moment, again, we have had falling momentum for quite some time. This falling momentum into an uptrend represents exhaustion. This is generally represented by buying exhaustion, which generally does spill over into a downtrend. Now, what we are watching for is going to be a breakout. Now, whether that breakout happens sooner or whether it happens later is irrelevant. When that breakout occurs, that is going to be the point at which the selling pressure has exhausted, okay? The sellers have exhausted and the buyers are back in control. Now, on terms of the short-term direction, we can see 2 scenarios playing out. We are now retesting a local bottom we established at the start of 2025. Again, this is going to be our 2025 low. We are retesting this point. If we drop below the 2025 low, we can see the RSI has actually already dropped below that level. We could see a correction into the 5,700 region or the 50 EMA. This is going to be a major reversal point for the S&P 500 where we could then see that RSI break through. That is something we are watching. But essentially, we are going to either retest a 50 EMA or the next point of which will turn bullish is when the RSI breaks out. Let's move over to Bitcoin. As we mentioned, jumping into the short-term charts, jumping into the weekly charts, jumping into Bitcoin dominance, jumping over to the total market cap and even the total altcoin market cap. A lot to discuss today, guys. Before we get into it, make sure to sign up to BitUnix, BitGet, and BingX. These are the 3 exchanges I use on this channel. I trade there personally every single day. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15% off all of your trading fees. You'll support me making this content every single day, guys, and you'll support yourself in your trading journey. Check it out. Sign up with the links down below. It takes a few moments, and we'll see you back into the content. If you are looking for a new exchange or just want to support the channel, sign up to BitUnix with the link down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% based on your trading volume, as well as access to a bonus reward center, and of course, all of the exclusive campaigns we run on this exchange. You'll also get access to BitUnix being a non-KYC exchange, meaning you can sign up from anywhere in the globe without regulations. And most importantly, I only promote exchanges I trust and I use. As you can see, I trade on BitUnix very regularly, being the highest VIP level with over $500 million in trading volume for the last 30 days. And lastly, if you were interested in signing up to our other 2 exchanges, BingX or BitGet, you can also do that via the links down below. You as well will get the 15% trading fee discount and everything else that comes with it. Go ahead and sign up. Thank you for supporting. Let's jump back in. So taking a look, Bitcoin over here, guys. Now, we're going to go over the same thing we've talked about for a while now. And, it is kind of boring discussing the same thing sometimes, but the reality of the market is until these points are validated or invalidated, they are relevant. And no matter how long we talk about it for, they're going to remain more or less relevant. So the level we are talking about is going to be the daily downtrend on the RSI, and of course the weekly downtrend in the price action. There is a common saying, the trend is your friend until it ends, okay? And that is essentially showing us this weekly downtrend is intact. And while this weekly downtrend is intact and momentum is negative, the expectation is that this level will not break. So if we do not break through this level of resistance, we cannot expect the price action to climb into 100K, to climb into 104, to climb into 108 until that level is broken. In fact, the probabilities then lay toward the downside levels of support, which we'll be discussing in today's video. But I want to go over this higher time frame chart. So the one thing we are watching, or should I say the two things we are watching to turn back bullish on Bitcoin, is going to be the RSI to break positive and the weekly downtrend to break. Now, these are the 2 points we discussed in yesterday's video, and actually the 2 points of which why we believed that rally yesterday all the way up to 94K was not going to sustain. I saw a lot of people online talking about how this was the moment, this was the narrative that's going to result in the price action continuing. This was the trigger. This was it. The reality is these news events, if do not hold any substance in regards to the macroeconomic climate. They don't impact the perceived systematic risk in the market. They don't really change anything. They're just short-term narratives that result in short-term movements, and especially when these news events are actually not even implemented yet. So we do generally see these rallies fall apart, and you can look at all the times these rallies have happened in relation to news events in similar fashions. Unless demand is really found at those levels, we do generally see these rallies give way, and we have seen again this rally come back down essentially to the exact price we were at before the rally, before that news event even came out. So congratulations if you avoided that. The main reason we avoided that is because, again, we saw bearish divergences developing at resistance. In terms of the high time frame chart, we were at a weekly downtrend and momentum had not flipped positive. Therefore, the probabilities were in favor of a correction back to the base of that rally. Not every single time that will happen, but the probabilities are in favor of corrections when the price moves into liquidity with bearish momentum. That is just generally what we expect. So when we're looking at this chart, for us to turn bullish, we need to see a break of the weekly downtrend and a break of the RSI. That is not going to give us the perfect entry. We're not going to get the lowest entry, but in my head, that is going to give me the entry that gives me the greatest probability that the price will continue in the direction I'm looking for after I do enter those positions. Until then, I continue to scalp trade and I continue to look for potential lower prices. So in regards to the daily, guys, that rally did not sustain. The things we were waiting for, the weekly downtrend to break and the daily RSI to break. Anything else is speculation until then. Let's move over to the weekly chart. Now, the weekly chart had a crazy weekly candle. We discussed that all in yesterday's video. The most insane weekly candle I have seen on Bitcoin for as long as I can remember. A 20% wick toward the downside, completely eaten up into the weekly candle close, now opening up red and continuing toward the downside. Again, the weekly range may potentially be lost in 6 days' time. Ideally, we close above the weekly range. If we do not, we run the risk of further corrections. So let's talk about further corrections and what they may look like. If you move over to the weekly chart, we had an indicator we were discussing over the course of the last, I'd say about 4 or 5 weeks. This indicator was the 62.09 on the RSI. Historically, out of the 16 times now we have broken below that level, we have seen a correction. And of the 11 out of the 16 times we have broken below, the correction was around 20%. So we had all this historical data to suggest we were going to see a correction for Bitcoin, and that correction is now complete. We saw 19.3% move toward the downside from that sell signal, which is an absolutely fantastic short if anyone caught that. But in terms of high time frame levels of support, where could Bitcoin bottom if we do not see the RSI breakout? So if we do not see this downtrend break and the RSI break, the expectation is we go lower, okay? The question is, where could we go? So we're going to answer that now. In terms of the weekly chart, the key levels we are watching are going to be the upper band of the Gaussian channel. The upper band of the Gaussian channel has confluence with the peak, okay, of the descending channel formation we had back during the months of around March all the way into October 2024, okay? The peak of that descending channel formation. Prior resistance becomes current support. So this is going to be a major reversal point that lines up with the Gaussian channel upper band. Now, if we move to a 3-day chart, we can see it actually also lines up pretty well with the lower band of the Gaussian channel. In fact, we may be actually breaking below the lower band of the Gaussian channel if we do see a drop into 74,000, which, as we know, could result in a macro trend shift. We have not seen a break below the 3-day before. We saw one liquidity grab into our yearly level of support over here. Besides that, we have been above the 3-day lower band of the Gaussian channel essentially the entire time since $18,000. So we definitely want to see those levels sustain. Otherwise, we do run the risk of a steeper and more aggressive and more drawn out correction for Bitcoin. Again, I do not believe we are in a bear market, but I do believe a bear market may initiate if we lose 74,000. So we have all this distance here to potentially create a higher low for Bitcoin, show some strength, have the economic climate shift in favor of the risk assets again. But if we do drop below 74,000, we will probably run the risk of entering a bear market. A reason I say that is because historically, when we drop into the Gaussian channel from the top side down, we generally go through the Gaussian channel. So we generally actually move through the channel the entire way through when we drop into it from the top side down, which could take Bitcoin into that 50K region again. So that's worst case scenario. But ideally, guys, as we mentioned, ideally, we avoid all of that from happening, but we need to break the RSI on the daily and the weekly downtrend. If we can get both of those things occurring, we can avoid all of that potential downside. But we need to see the momentum flip positive. Just to show you, this is the range we are looking at. If we look at the range and look at the RSI, that is a reflection of the momentum during this entire range of price action. It has been traveling down. Momentum is just a expression of strength. So essentially, this is weakness. All right, we see weakness. We see we don't have buying strength over here. We can't expect the price action to continue upwards while we have negative momentum. We need to see that momentum flip positive. If it does, it would suggest that during this entire period of price action, this entire phase of sideways and somewhat downwards, the buyers have officially exhausted the sellers. The sellers were unable to push the price lower than 78,000. That was just on a wick, and we were able to climb and we'll be able to climb and continue higher. So we need to see that actually happen before we can be bullish on Bitcoin. Now, some people have different expectations. That is perfectly fine. I'm not telling you what to think. I am simply sharing my own analysis and my own thought process. If it resonates with you, fantastic. If it doesn't, that is perfectly fine as well. Everyone is entitled to your own opinion, but you need to be able to support your opinions and your decisions with some data. And most importantly, this is most importantly, and I see a lot of analysts get this wrong, right? If you are a trader, and I would actually argue pretty much everyone is a trader, whether that be on a short-term or a high time frame basis, because I do anticipate to sell your asset for a profit at some point, okay? You need to also have a clear and identifiable but logic-based invalidation for your points. You need to be able to clearly state, at this particular point, when this happens, this expectation is no longer applicable. So in terms of expecting the price to drop lower, that is going to be the breakout of the RSI and the weekly downtrend. This also happens to be not only the bearish invalidation, but it happens to be the bullish validation, okay? Because when the expectation is no longer favorable for downward continuation, it becomes favorable for upward continuation. That is it, guys. Let's move over to the immediate short-term price action now, and then go to the rest of the market and wrap it up. So as we can see, I'm just going to go ahead and delete everything on the charts over here. We are now approaching some levels of support. We do have got, what am I even talking about, guys? My English, thank goodness I don't need English to be a trader, because I can't speak half the time. This is going to be a major level of liquidity. We are watching 83.6 to 83.2. This is an area we expect the price to come into. Now, whether or not we come up first and then come down, we are expecting this level to be reached at some point. This is essentially going to be the determining level of whether or not we see Bitcoin create a higher low and continue back upwards, or if we drop in and we were going to see a correction back into that 78k and fill that downside. So at the moment, I am watching this particular short-term level. I am watching for reactions at this point. If we retest this point with bullish volatility, we see a liquidity grab and close back above, we could see reversals on our hand. If we do drop below here and retest as resistance, we will likely see continuations back to those lower levels of liquidity. In terms of the immediate short term, we're going to a 30, 15, even 15-minute chart. We can see over here, we do have a pretty strong downtrend on that RSI. We do want to see that downtrend break. Again, this downtrend in the RSI is a reflection of momentum since we created that initial top over here at 94k. If we are able to break through this trend, the probabilities of an earlier reversal occurring back into this upper level of liquidity at 90k become much more likely. As you can see right now, is waiting for these trigger points to actually activate before these expectations play out. But if you were watching yesterday's video, the actual bearish target we had for Bitcoin was going to be this level of support. So in terms of our short positions, we are actually out of those now. We are actually just waiting to see how the price is going to respond. If we open shorts over here, as we talked about in our video, we would have seen those corrections take us all the way into this level. So expectations, although are slightly toward the downside, this is not going to be a move I am personally going to trade. I'm more or less watching for next opportunities when that RSI breaks or when this level of support is retested. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Let's quickly and very quickly end up the video by discussing the altcoin market, because we are actually pushing this video a little bit longer than I would like to do. The altcoin market, yeah, guys, look, what a freaking candle, guys. Absolutely insane. In fact, this, yeah, it's a bearish engulfing candle. It fully engulfed that rally. Now, we talked about in yesterday's video. I'm going to just go ahead and say it again. I don't like to go over and over about this stuff, but we discussed in yesterday's video that the next trigger point for altcoins to do well was at 940 billion. We said, do not ape into positions, or I didn't explicitly say that. I said, I'm not going to ape in positions, and I don't recommend aping in positions after the market rallies into resistance. Wait for those resistances to break. We have seen a massive correction now. Unfortunately, with that correction, the daily RSI has turned back negative, and we've more or less invalidated this level. So all this chop and volatility here has invalidated this level. We are watching for reactions now back at 940 to turn bullish on altcoins again. Until then, we are going to be more cautious on altcoins. As for the total market cap, well, we already know the game plan over here. We're waiting for the weekly candle close. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Have an amazing day. We'll catch you guys in the next video on Thursday. Unless something massive happens tomorrow, we won't be doing a video, but we'll see you on Thursday. See you then.